Final Fantasy got to be one of the most popular game franchises ever. And it's no wonder, the games are awesome from the beginning. The first games, which I'm going to talk about in general first, were awesome back then. I mean, in 1987, when the first Final Fantasy game appeared on the NES system, it took the technical capabilities of that home system to very good use, making an adventure game that is both incredibly pleasant, intriguing, and long, so that the joy of playing is longer. But as time progressed, the games got more and more dull for the newer generations. I mean, let's face it, kids nowadays want an action-packed experience, not really a turn-based adventure game that takes too much of their time. But that doesn't mean that people who grew up with the games don't appreciate the old games. For them, these games will remain forever dear pieces of their childhood. And the old games are not bad either, if you have the patience to play them, that is. But Square Enix adapted, and with each title they made the experience pleasant for the generations that are in lead, while still keeping the integrity of the games. So the first 4 Final Fantasy iterations for the Sony PSP are remakes. The graphics are upscaled, here and there are new dungeons and new content. It's basically the same game you grew up with, but with better graphics and ported on your new daily handheld, the PSP. As it was back then, or at least for me, the younger me, the PSP was my daily handheld. The games are like in the old days. You get nothing out of the box. If you want a quest, you have to talk to people, socialize. It gets you more into the game. It feels more like an RPG. You have to explore everything to find out how you can pass on to the next part of the story. So in conclusion, the games are the same ones, but redone with better visuals, redone with music that sounds more clear, and a little new extra content. Except for Final Fantasy III, which is another story. Final Fantasy III is a remake of the Famicom game, which was released only in Japan in 2003, right before the Famicom got discontinued. And this remake really is a remake. I mean, from a game that looked like this, to that you see here on the PSP, it looks like a totally different game. It features the return of the crystals, level up system, and the job system. And unlike Final Fantasy I, you can change your jobs at any time. Plus that you can change classes in the menu, so you can play with one character as a thief and then switch to a red mage after a few battles. Though it's not such a good strategy to switch too much. Also a nice feature Final Fantasy III has is the auto battle option, so that when you grind, you can just press select and the PSP does the battle for you. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy in Itadaki Street Portable is a fun board game that unites characters from Dragon Quest and from Final Fantasy into a crossover to play, well, a board game. For those who are new to the Itadaki Street board game, I tell you just this. It is similar to Monopoly, but in some aspects it's more fun than Monopoly. You buy properties, loan and so on. Just try it out. It will take me too much to explain the rules to you in such a short video. Final Fantasy Tactics, The War of the Lions, is a great game, even by modern standards. It has nice cutscenes, a solid story, and from the 1998 PS1 version, on the PSP there are improvements, like the new classes you get, the Onion Knight and the Dark Knight, and new characters. And this strategy game really gets you into thinking, so it's really a strategy game. It's not even like in the older games. Now you have to calculate your chances, see what your enemy has, what you have, think about what you want to do before doing it, just like a chess game. You have to overthink before doing a move or you'll regret it. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is a living example of how Square Enix adapts to the newer generation's gaming needs. while still keeping the integrity of the series. Final Fantasy VII is an action RPG. You have action points which you use during battle, but other than that, it's a very action-packed experience. The graphics are incredible for a PSP game, having many effects when fighting, pretty opulent environments and good controls. And now that we double-checked two of the main things a game needs to have in order to be an awesome game, good gameplay and controls, and pleasant looks, we need to check out the last one, the story, which is incredibly well written. You will shed tears and get through other emotions. Even the cutscenes with its well-picked music help a lot to the feelings the story gets you through. Also, there are side missions to the main story, and overall it's a very deep experience, taking you again around 20 hours to finish the game. And it's worth it. It gets everything right. Dissidia Final Fantasy gets even more closer to what newer generations want. A very action-packed experience. So it combines characters from the 10 Final Fantasy games up this far and puts them into an epic battle of light against darkness. And the combat in the game is one of the most beautiful and most epic I've seen on the PSP. And the combat is fascinating. Other PSP games have problems with the controls or the camera. Well, not here. In this game you block, you attack, dodge, use special attacks, and even use the awakening mode, called EX mode. It's a little bit hard to master, but once you spend some hours with it, it will feel natural, and you will feel like the many possibilities the combat system offers you are really worth it. I mean, you have characters that even wall climb or fly, and each character feels unique. There's a lot in that tiny UMD disc. Even the story is long, with many side quests, characters and so on. You get many different customization options for armor and weapons, and even more, the game has multiplayer, so you can fight in ad hoc matches with your friend. Square Enix overdid themselves with this one. Dissidia 012 Prologue and Duodecim Final Fantasy are two games, and they bring, each one of the two, new stories, new characters, and a new create your own adventure toolset. The story is not as strong anymore, and even the dialogues get to be nonsense philosophical blabbering many times, like I took a risk to believe in a chance. Not that they are not deep, but they don't fit, at least in my opinion. And along with the other dialogues, they just feel like shallow words that try to be something but fail. Also in battle, they added support characters that appear occasionally to land a hit or miss. Miss in my cases, mostly. They mostly missed. Okay, and another novelty in the game is the new labyrinth mode, where you run into a labyrinth and fight enemies till you get out. In rest, it's the same incredibly action-packed experience. You will have a lot of fun in this game too, like in the previous one. And the last one, Final Fantasy Reishiki Type 0, is one of the most impressive looking PSP titles to be ever made on the console. The graphics look so good you could confuse the game with a PS2 title. Even more than that, there are videos that compare the PSP version to the PS4 one. That's how amazing the game is. You can see the full comparison at Rajman Gaming HD channel to see how miraculous this PSP game looks. You can access the video of Rajman Gaming at HD from the video description. And the action is again fast-paced and incredibly epic, just like in the previous titles. And the combat is the same efficient one, that makes you shed tears of joy. So just to be brief, because the video already got to be pretty long, the story is strong and good, the gameplay is action-packed, you get free roam again, and the game's graphics are jaw-dropping. And the story is pretty good, just throughout the game. Okay, this was a brief presentation of the games. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want, follow me on Instagram. I left a link to my account in the video description. Thank you.